Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark Bundang, and this is the Making Your Mark podcast. My guest today is Mahesh. He's a professor at McGill. Welcome to the show, Mahesh.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for
So,
hosting me.
you know what? Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Mahesh. My full name is Muthucumaru Maheswaran, but I rarely use that because it's really bothersome to pronounce. I'm originally from Sri Lanka. I was born and bred there, and completed my undergraduate degree over there, and then I came for my PhD to United States, and I stayed there for 6 years. And afterwards I migrated to the great country north. So I came here in 1998, and I was a professor at University of Manitoba for 4 years, and then I moved to McGill. So since 2003, I'm at McGill, attached to the computer science School of Computer Science and the Department of Electrical Engineering.
Great. You know what, Mahesh? You make it sound so simple that you ended up at McGill, but I know that there's quite a few milestones and challenges that you went through to get there. Would you
Right.
start about one of them?
Yeah. So maybe I'll go all the way back to my high school days, just to narrate what happened. So in Sri Lanka, the university system is actually free for everyone, but the free admission is ultra competitive. So just imagine something like getting into the med school over here. So that's how engineering and med school there is competitive. So all the parents want their kids to go to those schools. And only there were two engineering schools when I was in the high school. So it was my dream to go to one of them, which was closest to my house.
I wanted to ask something because a lot of the audience that are going to see this, while YouTube is accessible all over the world, a lot of the people who might see this right now will probably be North American, right? So they don't have the kind of experience. Just something that you mentioned was you had the school is free, but it's very competitive. Can you just
Right.
what are the odds against you if you could explain a little bit?
So basically, there were two universities, and they would take about, at least in my year, it was they were taking 220 into each, university. So it's a country of 18 million or 19 million that time, and so you can imagine how hard or easy it is to get into that program. So the way the students actually prepare for that is they go to really good schools, obviously the best they could get in, and the way they get selected is there's another exam at year 10, that is the GC ordinary levels, and this is the GC advanced levels. So in the ordinary levels, you take 8 subjects and you pass them, and depending on the distinctions and the passes, and you have the schools actually cherry pick the best students to fill their cohort so that they can market that they have very good entrance rate. But the education system is free in the sense you don't pay anything for the university, you don't pay anything for the schools. Obviously, there are no private schools. So there are private schools, but there are no private universities at that point. So the political system made sure that there was nothing private at the higher education levels. So basically, that meant the students were like kind of killing themselves in the A levels because they were going to schools and they were going to tutories like who were coaching them exam. They were kind of giving them like drill questions over and over again how to prepare for it, and then they would say, oh, a lot of our students go into the engineering schools, or medical schools, and every parent, they wanted their school child to be either doctor or engineer,
Oh,
um
really? I've
yeah.
never heard that one before.
Yeah. The way Asian parents are, right? So obviously, that's pressure cooker situation. And definitely my situation did not help it at all. If I have to go forward, I was just putting more handicaps on myself. So it kind of meant I had to show up for the exam. An exam was like 4 subjects, and each subject you had a 3-hour paper, and the whole university admission was based on how many marks you get out of those 4. That's it. So
Wow, there's a lot riding on that.
yeah, everything rides on that. I'm sorry, I think I made a mistake. Maybe each subject was 6 hours, so you have four days of exams, and that's it. That's your future. In my case, I showed up for that exam without writing a practice exam because the school did not have anything. I cannot blame them because they already said that they don't have infrastructure for that. They don't even have the teachers to teach it. So but I had some teachers teaching me in the first year of the program, but the second year is where you really ramp up. So my sister was in another school, and she helped me a little bit by getting notes from the school, and sending me to some other teachers. So this is like patchwork of things. But at the end of the day, when the results came, it was not very good. I was very disappointed. But still, it was good enough for me to be in the top bracket, where it mattered. So I did not have very, great grades because I was hoping that I would ace everything, but I did not ace everything. But it was good enough for me to get in to the program that I wanted. So everybody went there. Um, so I was delighted, and my parents were delighted.
That kind of experience, so like what kind of impact did that have on you? I mean, you talk about, you had a situation where there's only a small assessment period or something like that, and then your directions left or right or this way, like what was the impact on your direction because of this moment?
Yeah, I mean, because I obviously got into the program that I wanted, but I think the impact was felt later, much later. Actually, I went into the engineering school, and everybody who came from great schools were there, and some of these students were like, they aced the exams, that exam, which I did not ace it. So I was there, and but what I noticed was my approach to studying was very different from everybody else, because a lot of people, they go to the lectures and they study, and they just follow the lecturer. And they look at the notes, and they go back and prepare using the past papers, and did not follow that because I never followed it in the previous exam, right? So I go to the library and open up books that nobody wanted to look at, and read them, and kind of look at alternate viewpoints on what the lecturer may not have covered, or lecturer does not, because lecturer is kind of giving you an opinionated view of the material. So there are other opinions. And then in the first exam in the engineering school, I was ranked first.
Oh, okay.
And it was quite surprising for a lot of people, because I came from a no-name school, and when people were looking at who would be ranked first in this exam, because everybody is like writing the same exam, taught by the same professors, so it's kind of a level playing field, right?
Did you consider your unconventional way of studying a disadvantage for you?
No. I think, as I said earlier, like I relished, that opportunity. I took it as a challenge. I did not complain. I did not tell my parents, "Hey, you guys threw me off." In fact, I did not complain at all. I enjoyed it actually. So I said, "This is a challenge I'm going to meet." But when the results came, I was was not enjoy that. But later on, I felt that that was a good thing for me. It actually gave me a lot of confidence, and it also gave me a very unconventional way of approaching tough problems, because you are more self-reliant. You're basically strategizing. So for example, when I was left alone to study, I cannot just study one book, because when I studying the book, obviously the book is going to, like, I'm just hit a wall, with the book. So I had to go to the library and I have to dig up other books, and I had to be very vigilant not to go off track, and select the best books that I could. So I developed a lot of skills that very rarely seen in students, in those good guidance on what book to read, what book to, which sections to go, and so on. But I had those skills, and that actually served me. I developed those skills, because if not for those skills, I wouldn't have crossed that bridge. I would be
Right.
somewhere else. So it was an opportunity for me to develop those, and that actually served me very well during the university days, going and doing extremely well in the exams, and had a very good GPA, and that actually resulted me in getting a Fulbright scholarship to come to the US to do my master's degree. And I think I would attribute all of that to that adversity, where you're basically put on a pressure cooker, and
Hmm.
the pressure cooker was already there, whether I stayed in the previous school or not, because it's so much expectation. But I kind of crank up the temperature in the pressure cooker a little bit more myself.
And
And
it came out to your advantage. I mean, you
yeah,
developed some
yeah, yeah.
skills and skills that
Right,
other people didn't have, right?
right, right, right.
If I can maybe take from there, my understanding is that you, from an early time in your life, developed through adversity some skill set that gave you an advantage that other students didn't have.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that is a turning point, I would say. It's something that I kind of keep going back and thinking about.
I love that. I love that because um, in my life too, like I'm known as or at least 10 years ago, I was known as a project manager, and I tried to climb the corporate ladder into a junior executive position. And I was very immature at the time, and I didn't have the confidence that I do have now. And my boss at the time, because I was not doing so well in that job, he was coaching me. He said, "Listen, Mark, just go back to what you're good at.
Hmm.
Go back to what you're good, what you know you're good at, and then when you know what you're good at, and you keep doing that, and you know the results are going to be good, then you start to build confidence again because you're doing something repetitively good, right? So you build momentum, and so your story kind of, it strikes me like here, because it's my own experience as well. What I do want to also delve into is I know this isn't your only experience. When you were coming up, like, do you have another one you want to share with the audience as
Oh,
well?
yeah, yeah. So the next one was actually soon after I got into the university. So we received the letter saying that you admitted to the university, and my whole family was very happy about it. Um, and right at that period, there was this huge, because you might have already read somewhere that Sri Lanka went through a civil war for a
Mm,
long period of time, and that all started with the race riots that was triggered in 1983 July. That was a huge riot where a lot of um, Tamil people got killed. So we were um, We were in a place, and obviously we thought that we were kind of safe. My parents were like, okay, let's stay at home. But then someone in the neighborhood came running and told us there's a mob coming to attack you guys, so we have to run for our dear lives. So there was no time to lose. So it was, the mob is on the way, and they were just looking for Tamils because it's a race riot, So we had to basically leave everything. I mean, it was a rented house, but obviously we have collected. I mean, that's the whole, books and everything that we collected. So it's we were living in a house, right? So we had to just run out of the house and run to some kind neighbors, and of course with the help of the neighbors we have to find way to the closest police station. Obviously the mob was chasing us, and we narrowly escaped. So it was a very harrowing experience. But what came out of that was, we were kind of, at least I was kind of thinking, a lot of things are important in life, but at that point what was important is just the four of us, just my parents and my sister and myself, right? Nothing else was important. Just us not being harmed, and we were just there in, alive. That's what mattered. And I was obviously happy when I went to sleep on the refugee camp floor, because all my, you know loved ones are there. So it was a very very different, feeling, because in the house, in your home, right? If your bed is not properly made up, you are just yelling at your mom and saying, hey, what is this? My bed is not properly made. Here you are in a refugee camp floor. You're going to sleep because you're tired of running. So, and of course there was not proper food and so on, and you don't even want to think about going to the washroom, like, bathroom. It's a very, different kind of existence for the next, I would say, at least 5 or 6 weeks. I don't know how long it took.
How old were you approximately at that time? Were you a
I was,
teenager or?
yeah, I was, because I just got in. I got
Oh,
just got a good news to get into the engineering school. So I think I was 18.
you're a young adult at that point, but still
Right.
not experienced. Like I can't imagine what kind of thoughts were going in your head at the time.
Right. And it was partly kind of scared, because it was a very tense situation. Like, although the refugee camps were guarded by army and police, I
Mhm.
mean, there was so many rumors flying around saying that, the mob is still going to come and attack you guys, things like that. So it was like, we were there, but still, it was all tense.
You mentioned your what was important to you, right? You mentioned that at that moment it was your family. It was the four of you that were
Yeah.
uh, what mattered in your life at that moment. Were there? I mean, after that moment, and I mean, you said it lasted for 5 to 6 weeks. Were some other thoughts? I mean, did you ever at one point think it was unfair? Did you ever think about what's going to happen with my career, my school? Did that matter?
For some strange reason, I was very optimistic that this would kind of, settle down, and I would come back to the university that I really wanted to go. Strangely, refugee camp was in the university. So I went to the university before I was called. I went to the university as a refugee first.
Oh, oh yeah. Wow,
So I was personally very optimistic that things would settle down. But there were a lot of people who were not optimistic, who said, we are not going to have the opportunity to study here. We are just going to go to India and study there, you know. And a lot of people also left for Canada at that time.
why can't?
They came as refugees at that time.
Oh, okay, Canada.
Yeah, yeah. they a lot of people, because there were a lot of refugees. I was in the refugee camp, and then a lot of, and the embassies, they actually processed a lot of applications for refugee, claims. But in our family, and our family was not interested. At least my parents were not interested. Myself, I didn't even talk to my parents about applying for refugee claim in other countries. So we were kind of quite optimistic that everything would settle and we would go back to this
Well,
place.
what is the difference? What's the root of your optimism versus the other people who are not optimistic?
I'm not sure where the optimism came, but and one of the reason why I think we were more optimistic was we lived, because in Sri Lanka the Tamils mostly live in the north and the east,
Hmm.
and the other people called Singalas, they live in the other regions, and we were mostly living in the other regions. And I'm very fluent in the other Sinhala language, and I know them. I have a lot of friends in Singalas, like I'm very fluent and good with them. And so I know that they would settle down. This is a very spontaneous race ride, and not everybody was involved in it. It's a mobs, it was all coordinated mobs, and they were just doing somebody else's bidding.
I think you're touching on a good point that I wanted to stress maybe because it's very easy to say all people from this group like they're all the same, you know, and
Right.
but that's not true.
That's not true. That's not true. In fact, a lot of single people are very kind and very, good people. But they were just at that point in their image was tarnished, and some Tamil people actually still think another way, like because of course when you are affected, you kind of start thinking of a lot of different ways, right? But since we had a very good experiences with singular people, I think we refuse to see that as the end. We said
Okay.
that there is a lot of scope here, so we should stay. And that was kind of shared, not only me, just my family was also, my parents and my uh, sister, they also shared the same thing. I think to me the most profound experience was we can lose a lot of things and we can still be happy, you know
Hmm.
and that just happened on a day, right? So we just made refugees, and I don't think, looking back, I was any less happy. I did not cry. I did not, there was no reason for me to cry. I was like, my mother was probably crying. I don't know. My sister was probably crying, but I refused to cry. For me, if they are all correct, they are all there with me, then I had no reason to cry. That is what mattered to me. So nothing else mattered. Of course, I like to have all of those, but if the choice comes, this is all I want.
Wow, that's a lesson for all of us to take, Mahesh. It's because especially here in the Western world or in North
Yeah,
America,
yeah,
we're so attached to the modern conveniences, the things we take for granted. I mean,
right,
for me, I remember when I went to the Philippines for the first time when I was 9. I was born and raised here in Canada. So I'm used to flushing toilets. I'm used to having a seat on the toilet, you know, and then I go there and there's none of that, you know. So especially back in the 80s when I went, you know, so you take that away and we're a bunch of babies here, you know, but uh, it's important to really.
it actually happened with my daughter too. When I first took her to my mother's house, her grandma's house, there was a lizard inside the house. And she was like saying, "There is a creature inside the house, like take it away and put it outside," like, and she was just hyperventilating. Like, so I was saying, no, 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 you know, either. if you're very upset about it, maybe the lizard stays here and we go outside the house. How is that? And you will see a lot of lizards outside. So
You learned it.
it's a very different, world, right? So all it takes is getting used to a little bit, and then you're fine. So that was kind of my experience there. All it takes was kind of a mindset that what is very important for you is there, and everything else could go and you're fine.
Thanks for sharing that, Mahesh. I wanted to ask you then. I'm sure you have plenty of experiences you want to pull out of your hat there, because you've lived a very full life. I wanted to ask you: is there one more that you can
Yeah,
share with the
yeah.
audience?
That's kind of very interesting. There was another very interesting, short story, I would say. There were one day when I was in the university, a professor came. This was in the undergraduate school. A professor came to the class and asked who knows computers in the class. I was in year two in the university program. I was always research oriented. I wanted to do research as my career. That was the career that I was looking for. But I was not looking to do something in computers because I didn't know computers, at that point. So what I wanted to do at that point was I wanted to do research in material science. That was favorite topic. And it turned out when the professor came and asked who knew computers, I haven't even used a computer at that point. But then I was seated in the very front of the class. I usually do. And then I looked back, and to my surprise, a lot of people in my class, they actually had used computers and they even owned computers. And the professor was getting into a conversation with them. What I gathered was computers are very cool, and here I am, I don't know anything about it. So that kind of triggered me to, look into computers more. So I said, oh, this is something that I should learn now. I want to learn computers myself. I'm just going to go into learning mode and learn it. And then at that point, I said, well, I want to have my own programming language. I want to build my operating system. So I want to do all of that, as that thing of getting to know computers, getting into computers. So that is where it came when he said select a PhD topic. I said programming language. I want to start there. You tend to do things for two different reasons, I believe. One is you see an opportunity and the opportunity cost is in favor, and then you do it. Or you do it with deep seated passion, like you have a deep seated passion for something, and no matter what the opportunity or lack of opportunity, you are always looking for that. So that is where I was coming from. I had a deep seated passion for digging deeper into this and trying to contribute something.
It's a very interesting takeaway from your experience there. You know what? To maybe close this a little bit, is there any piece of advice that you want to give to the audience who will be watching this?
Yeah, I see that a lot of youngsters, like, as a professor, I see a lot of them, and a lot of them in their prime. Just like what I was in all my stories, I was like, either placing myself in the university entrance or through the university, right? So basically, that is where a lot of people trying to make their mark, I guess, trying to, like, first put the trajectory there, right? So I see a lot of them as professor now. So some of them, a lot of confusion on what they want to do, and this is something that I think people should work on, like young people. So from the very beginning, I was always looking for something to work on. Kind of an engineering mindset was there. Even in the engineering school these days, I see a lot of people don't have that passion of engineering. That is kind of very, I would say, disheartening for me. You should kind of think deeply about
Mm,
what triggers your inner self. To me, it is all about letting it drive you. Because to me, the I was curiosity was driving me. Curiosity was when I said that the everybody knew computers and I did not know. I was just curious, like if computers were so cool and so on. Apparently, that conversation hit me as it being cool. Why am I not knowing about it? And what can I do to know about it? So it was like all of a sudden my curiosity went that way. And it still keep going that way. That is why I'm in the computer science department. So basically, if you are kind of driven by that inner self, I would say you can weather a lot of you know ups and downs. Yeah,
okay.
ups and downs. Because the dangerous trend that I see is a lot of people are just going for that ups. Obviously, ups alone don't happen. There is plenty of downs in your life that is going to about bound to happen. So if you're driven by something else, like a third, like a like an inner motivation, then there is a higher chance you have a more robust way of dealing with things.
Before we go, I wanted to ask you if someone watches this and they're compelled by your story, how can they reach you?
Sure, they go to the McGill Computer Science website. There is my contact information.
Okay.
So McGill School of Computer Science, or I can actually have my email posted over here.
If they're interested, I mean, even if they can't find the McGill Computer Science Department or something like that on the website, leave it in the comments and then I'll hook you up. Well, thank you very much, Mahesh. Very much appreciated.
No problem. Thank you. The pleasure is mine talking to you.
Hey, thank you very much. If you made it this far to the end of the podcast, I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. We're just starting out, so it would help if I could just ask one more thing of you. Please subscribe to this channel and share the podcast, share the episode on any platform you can. It would mean a lot to me and it would help us a lot. Thank you.